Colby, wait till your Iona fellas find out that you wish you had gone to the University of North Carolina. Just wait till they find that out.
I'm in love with Carolina basketball. I can't help it.
Next on the College Rugby Wrap-Up, men's and women's coverage, CRAA heavyweight battles, NCR All-Americans announced, and college players in Major League Rugby. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pump, and Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Hey everybody, and welcome back to this week's College Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City and Josh Rescio in California, while the other two guys prep for their segments. That is Zach Lanning and Colby Marshall, of course. Josh, bring us up to speed on all things CRAA. That is the D1A stuff. Tell us all about it, including that Army versus Life clash.
Well, Matt, you were close. Not actually in California. I'm in an airport. I think I'm in Dallas at this point. Gotta love Texas, but I'm on my way back. I'm going to be back there for you guys next week. So don't you worry. Josh on the road is not going to be a forever thing. I know we want to talk about this Life Army game, but before we get there was a ton of rugby to go through. So we'll put that one off to the end. First, let's kind of like cover some of the other games. One big game for the other service academy. Navy was able to beat Mount St. Mary's 64-15. They're getting ready for those playoffs as well, just like every other team that played in the fall. So they're still going to be exciting to watch. Hopefully they have a few more games before the playoffs actually hit. Santa Clara was able to get a 1-point victory, 26-25 over San Diego State. Early struggles in the season may be a thing of the past. Paul Keeler must have done some good things for Santa Clara, as now, they seem to be putting some quality performances, and that's another win under their belt. Another big game to cover, one of my favorite college rugby rivalries that we get to watch here in the United States. BYU was able to beat Utah 57-5. Doesn't matter the scoreline, I got to tell you, this environment for this game is always the best. If you ever have the chance to watch a BYU versus Utah rugby match, you got to make it out there and do it. So quality game. BYU seems to be really preparing themselves for a rematch for St. Mary's, which we can kind of get into in a little bit. But first, let's start talking about these major games that we're starting to see on the schedule. First, let's start with Lindenwood. Lindenwood, defensive team, 73-point differential, goes into Arkansas State and does what they've been doing this entire spring. Plays great defense and walks out of there with a quality win. 17-5 over Arkansas State. And I got to tell you, Lindenwood right now, I know we have Army, I know we have Cal, I know we have St. Mary's. Lindenwood is my favorite team to watch. They are playing the most quality rugby. They're not putting up these crazy score lines like Cal, but they are playing quality rugby, and they're doing what it takes to be a championship team. So they've got some tough games ahead. They have a big matchup versus Life on March 23rd, but right now Lindenwood is doing everything it takes to make sure that they're going to be competitive come the playoffs later this spring. Next big game I want to cover, St. Mary's and Central Washington. St. Mary's has been falling into some deficits early on in their games the past couple of weeks, and this was no different. Down 27-8 to a really good Central Washington team that has been, kind of putting up good fights against some of the top teams in the country right now. Carl Keene, we can tee him up for trying to get his team some resiliency. St. Mary's did it again, coming back from down 27-8 and to win 30-27. St. Mary's is keeping themselves there at the number 2 team. We may see them slide a little bit based on some other action that happened this week, but you got to say that St. Mary's has been doing what it takes to win, and when it matters, they are able to come back from whatever score it seems at this point and to get the win done. Next game, let's talk about the other major California team. We got Cal versus UCLA. I know, look, I may be eating my words, but I had this game circled for a long time. I was really hoping that this was going to be maybe an opportunity for UCLA to pull off the upset. It wasn't that. 54-21, the win for Cal. Cal is still really kind of rolling along and is proving to be a really tough team to beat. Nick Bloom had a hat trick with 3 tries. Still kudos to UCLA. I mean, you take a look at games so far that Cal has had this year and how easy it is for them to put 60-plus points on a team. UCLA, solid performance. I think what's really been proving, and I think where you're going to see like Lindenwood can have the advantages that maybe some other teams don't, is that you have to play the best defense of your life in order to have a chance versus Cal right now. And it's only a select few of teams right now in the country that are probably going to be able to do it. One of those teams, though, that we may be able to say is going to be having the possibility to play solid defense against Cal and maybe get a win is Army. Now, Army had to play 2 games this week before we go into the big game. Let's talk about their first game. So Army was able to win 34-12 over Queens University. Really solid win for Army, who is kind of, again, another fall schedule team trying to kind of keep themselves warm as they get into the playoffs, especially for Army, who can be considered, one of the top 2 teams in the country. They got to take on Life, who also played a game before this game. Life was able to beat Davenport 40-7. So we got 2 teams able to get some wins under their belt before the big game, but the big game itself did not disappoint. Talking about Army, 14-10 win over Life, a really good Life team. I mean, it's amazing to me that we have a college rugby season where Life is the one coming on to the wrong side of these score lines right now. They've been really close in these games. But Army 10-1 with their only loss to Dartmouth so far. They have a resume that is better than pretty much any other team in the country. They were able to pull off another win. Now having Life has a win under their belt. I will mention that Army has beaten Lindenwood. So, I may be on the Lindenwood bandwagon, but we can't forget about Army, as they are probably another team that carries that really high defensive energy and is a team that can probably stop St. Mary's or Cal from being able to put up those crazy score lines super quick.
All right, good stuff. And what a result, huh? Some of us saw that and some of us didn't, but we got to take a quick break and we'll be back with Zach and Colby after this.
Looking for your next vehicle? With Sheehy's Easy Search, choose from over 3,000 new and used vehicles. Shop, trade, or buy online or in store. We make it easy with our award-winning service.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
Hey, we're back. Colby Marshall, Zach Lanning, and Matt McCarthy. And Colby, we're back with Zach to tell us about the female side of things in rugby on the collegiate rugby landscape. Zach?
Take it away.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was a quiet weekend on the women's side of the game. The only really notable scores coming from BYU, who took on UCLA this weekend, shutting them out 64-0. And then they also took on, for good measure, UCSD, University of California, San Diego, and shut them out 80-0, all in the same weekend. So
that's 140-0 in 2 games.
Yeah, BYU has had a hell of a spring, a bit of a package deal for them. That's tough to do, not let up a single point across 2 matches, over 2 days. So kudos to them. They'll participate, look for them to participate in the really last meaningful clash ahead of the USA Nationals, the CRA playoffs this spring. They're going to take on Central Washington University on March 26th. So that's definitely a game for everybody to circle on their calendars. Both teams kind of in that second tier of the D1 Elite under Life and Lindenwood. So that's a huge matchup to kind of find out where, that second tier shakes out ahead of the playoffs here. BYU, as I mentioned, had a really busy spring, a really strong spring, playing a lot of matches, winning every single one of them, letting up barely any points, if any. Central Washington has taken a different tack. They've only played, a couple of games. They're going to end up having only played Seattle Rugby Club twice, and then one Canadian team, University of Lethbridge, before this BYU clash. So we'll see which strategy, I guess, plays off.
Well, if they keep vanquishing their opponents, they're not going to be in that tier too long.
Right, yeah. So they're already in that D1 Elite segment. They're up in the top echelon, but they lost again in the fall to both Life and Lindenwood. So they have not been able to crack that truly top tier of the top tier programs. But we'll see. They've had a very impressive spring. Maybe they've been able to put a run together here at the end to topple one of those, the giants.
So you mean the elite of the elite, kind of. So it's not like necessarily second tier.
Right. I guess second tier wouldn't be the right thing. I mean, Life Lindenwood would have had such a stranglehold as they, do in every division in rugby, really, it seems, at the college level. So,
yeah, well, you're fired. Okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. All right. But not until we're done with covering rugby for the rest of our lives. You're not fired. So continue.
Right. So speaking of those Life and Lindenwood in the D1 Elite playoffs, Life, it appears those games have come up on their online calendar. They're populated here, those playoffs in April. So they will be competing in those playoffs, it seems, again. So despite, I thought maybe because they had taken part in some of the NCR competition in the fall, that they were not going to be able to compete for that playoff. But the second place team from last year, Life Running Eagles, will be competing. But speaking of that time in the NCR, Life Running Eagles were part of the announcement of the NCR All-American teams from the fall that they were released recently here. They had 4 players named in the D1 NCR Women's All-American team here. Amaya Moala, Nina Mason, Nikki Nguyen, and Hannah Bockelman, all named to that starting side, who did, in fact, win the NCR championship in the fall, although it was a JV side for Life that was competing in that one. Yeah, and the team that they beat in that NCR championship last year, UNI, also well represented with 3 players, Maggie Rogers and Sierra Standerson Edwards, names that you would all probably recognize from our All-Star Sevens coverage.
Did you say you and me?
What?
You said you and me?
You and I.
Oh, yeah. We didn't play. Ba-doom-cha. Oh, we're having fun now, ladies and gentlemen. Colby loved that one. Boy, we're here all weekend.
This is great stuff. This is why the people keep coming back for this. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
You and I.
UNI, University of Northern Iowa, had plenty of stars in this one. But Marquette, I think Marquette is a team that we should mention here. 4th in the nation at the end of the fall. Haven't really talked about them much on this program, but I think because they were unfortunate to run up against Life in the playoffs in the semifinals, but they also had 3 players named in this All-American roster as well. So a program probably to look out for ahead of the next fall season, maybe to see if they can continue that dominance, make some noise in the playoffs next year as well. But on the small college side, just to mention quickly in passing here, Wayne State dominated the small college All-American team with 5 players named, including Izzy Robinson, who you'll remember from our coverage of the Sevens as well, who dominated on all facets of the game. Yeah, MVP of the 15s championship, great player in the Sevens tournament as well. And then just a couple other names, Sofia Nieves from Middlebury and Gabby Dispenza from St. Bonaventure, 2 players who played really well in that All-Star tournament, who are also now All-Americans.
Anything else, Zach? Because we got to take a quick break.
No, that was it. Just excited to talk about later on the men's NCR All-Stars as well, the All-Americans.
The cliffhanger as we go into this break and come back with Colby Marshall talking MLR and college stuff again. And, of course, that NCR All-American press release. We'll be right back after this. If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. And we are back. Colby Marshall, Zach Lanning, Matt McCarthy. Colby, we got your segment, the recurring segment, and a good one where you talk about college stars faring in the MLR. What do you got for us today on the Major League Rugby front?
Yeah, guys, on the Major League Rugby front, first and foremost, it was an action-packed weekend in the MLR, but I do have a few noteworthy mentions in regards to a few college standouts and young guys making their debut over this past weekend. If we look at the Rugby ATL Houston SaberCat matchup, the 2021 number 2 overall pick, Emmanuel Albert, finally made his MLR debut in that game in Houston's narrow loss to Rugby ATL. Pretty much played the entire second half. You saw Houston have a little trouble with their scrum early on in that second half, so they had to bring on the likes of an Emmanuel Albert to help out in that regard.
Wow, he didn't even go to Iona, and you're tooting his horn.
He is a guy that Zach and I did talk about a whole lot during the draft, so I'm sure we were both looking forward to seeing him in his first game. So I'm glad that we got to see a little bit of him in that second half. Hopefully we get to see more of him this season for sure.
Yeah, he's great. He's been on
an athlete.
Show. Great guy. And he was dinged up. He was coming back from an injury that he picked up. So good to see him back in action, get his feet wet. Continue.
For sure. Yeah, and speaking of top 2 picks in the game between the LA Giltinis and the Austin Gilgronis, we finally saw Connor Mooneyham get loose. Guy scored 2 tries. The wing out of Life University in Austin's 22-9 victory over the LA Giltinis. Austin continues to run rampant In the MLR, they're 5-0 with the biggest point differential in the league. And Connor Mooneyham is a player that's going to have a lot of success this year, I think, at the wing like he did last year.
Yeah, all he's got to do is follow that back line up and down the pitch, and he's going to get one opportunity after the next. It's an amazing back line with that very strong engine room. So he's just going to be pouncing on opportunities all game long, all season long.
You know, for Dallas and their lopsided defeat against the Utah Warriors, 69-22, one of the positives they can take from that game was that 4 guys made their debut starts for the Jackals in that game, one of which was Alejandro Torres, who was drafted in the second round of the 2021 MLR draft. Additionally, Eric Naposki, who returned from injury, played fairly well in this game, and that's got to be a promising sign for the Jackals moving forward.
Yeah, it's always tough to pinpoint positives when you get crushed 69-22, but there were some. And again, this is a franchise in its first season, finding its feet. And look at the Gilgronis. The Gilgronis were almost out of the league when they were the Austin Elite, and then the Austin Herd. And now look at them, 5-0 on the top of the table.
Yeah, and just on the other side of that matchup as well, on the Utah Warriors side, you saw a debut, Colson Warner, the fly half out of Lindenwood, who was drafted by the Rugby ATL by the Rattlers, actually made his Warriors debut and scored a try. He wasn't unique or alone in scoring tries against Dallas on that day, but another college talent making his Warriors debut and making it count.
Excellent. And, Colby, we're not going to bring up the fact that your boy Connor Buckley got his first loss as a starter.
Segment's not over.
We'd be frauds if we didn't bring it up.
Segment is not over, Matt. Segment is not over. We still got time.
All right. Okay. Colby, go ahead.
Yeah, and the NOLA Gold's first win of the year for them, their 25-24 victory over the Seattle Seawolves. It was nice to see Aaron Matthews on the bench for the NOLA Gold. He's been battling an injury of late, and don't forget, he was drafted by Seattle 2 years ago, but is now a member of the NOLA Gold after they picked him up in the offseason. He's a guy that I think is going to be a huge, huge part of their back line this year once he gets back up to speed. So it was nice to see him on the bench for them in that game.
And anything else, Colby?
Yeah, while he's not somebody that was drafted recently, Augustus Bume, he is a 24-year-old front row player from Chile. He made his MLR debut in Seattle's starting lineup in this game as well.
So the correlation is that he probably went to college someplace.
Well, correct. Not in America, but I think in Chile he was at school.
All right. Okay. Global university rugby college guys and the MLR is what we'll expand this segment to be. Good. We like it. Good stuff. And it shows that you're doing your homework, Colby. Good stuff. Any final thoughts you want to get back to?
Well, yeah, I got to mention, Connor Buckley. He did. I kind of want to see him play the whole game. It's kind of annoying that he keeps getting taken out,
for a guy with 28 caps for the All Blacks.
Granted, Andy Ellis should be in the team. He should get his minutes. He's a phenomenal player. Not taking anything away from Andy Ellis, but I would love to see Connor Buckley get a little bit more run as the starter. I mean, he is, starting after all. So I would like to see him get a deeper run into the second half at the least before we see Andy Ellis.
All right. Well, your Gale is showing. All right. And on that note, we got to take another quick break, but we'll be back with NCR Men's All-American news and our final thoughts. Don't go away.
Been blind since I was 4. And I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste. And my beer's Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
Back, and guys, the NCR National Collegiate Rugby All-American men's side came out as well, and we've got D1, we've got D1AA, D2, and small college. So we got 4 brackets of very good players. Let's start with D1, Zach.
Yeah, just some thoughts for me. Sean McNulty, the fly half from Army, made the cut along with his teammate Matt Meehan. I thought for sure Michael Amberg, the wing who played at Army, had a great season in the fall, would have made the cut, but he didn't get on the list. But, plenty of other talented Army players. You can see why they were so good.
Yeah, Colby?
Yeah, Zach's right. I mean, a lot of talented guys on this list. You look at Mike Weir, the Dartmouth fly half, Brian Stella from Penn State, and of course, Cam DeGiorgio.
Of course.
From Iona. Well-deserved. Should be up on the top of a lot of MLR boards come time for the 2022 MLR draft, in my opinion. So well-deserved for Cam DeGiorgio.
I got to go to the front row. I got to go to Hooker, and I got to go to a guy named Connor Robinson out of Boston College who logged a ton of minutes this season. Excellent player, and you got to like these front row guys. Got to give them some credit sometimes. D1AA. Zach?
Yeah, for me, the name is Khalil Lynch from Nazareth College. Nazareth, their first year in this division, D1AA, and they were great. They were very strong. Khalil Lynch in that back line for Nazareth was a huge part of that. So he was definitely also another name to watch for the MLR draft, possibly dynamic runner, dynamic player all around, and Nazareth, a team to watch going forward for sure.
Colby.
Yeah, I got to mention Ethan Berry, the back player from UConn. I got the chance to talk to Ethan after UConn demolished Buffalo in front of our eyes. And a great kid, very hardworking player. He was playing through a lot of injuries in the game against Buffalo and still, had a great game. I think he might have been man of the match for a lot of people. So Ethan Berry stands out to me on that list.
I'll give you Ethan Berry, but I got to point out, you brought up Buffalo. I'm bringing up two University of Buffalo players, John Asplund Jr. at prop, who had a great year, but also my man Matt Conforti is not on this list. This is fixed. This is fixed. You hear me, NCR? This is fixed and BS. But Danny McKillop, the player coach out of Virginia Tech, number 8, unbelievable guy. He deserves this and more. Zach, what about your D2 guys?
Yeah, for me, again, it has to be Mark Carney for the fly half from Georgetown. Got to keep shouting his name out for him, his play, his family, who his name kept getting confused at the All-Star tournament. But he, played really great in that tournament, had a great season at Georgetown at fly half. It's a key position, for the game in this country to keep developing. We need to start developing fly half talent, and he has it in spades. I think he's going to be a name to watch for sure. He's a junior this year, so he's got another season in college, so definitely going to watch him next season.
Colby?
Yeah, a couple of guys from Thomas More stood out to me. Matthias Karamudi, the fly half, and Tomas Caceres, the number 8 player for them. Alejandro Torres is in the MLR, and he played at Thomas More University, so I'm sure a lot of MLR scouts are going to have their eyes on these 2 players as well. Additionally, Luke Teixeira from UNC Chapel Hill. I just want to say, if I knew that UNC Chapel Hill had a rugby team, I would have went to UNC Chapel Hill to play rugby. I mean, wow. That's my dream school.
You'd look awfully silly wearing that shirt that you're wearing today. Then
it wouldn't matter because I'd be wearing Carolina blue, sky blue. So.
All right, Carolina blue, sky blue. I'm going to go with a guy that didn't get a lot of press, but Chad Tiernan out of Bucknell, the number 8, a junior. Watch for him next season, unless he signs a contract with the MLR and skips his senior year of eligibility. Let's go over to Zach's small college setup.
Just like Colby, you can kind of predict where he's going to pick when it comes to the D1 side with the Gaels. I have to mention the Jacks, the 2 Jacks from Holy Cross who made the list here. Jack Swords at prop and also Jack Tessier at prop as well. 2 really solid players for the Crusaders this year. It's great to see Holy Cross getting recognized like this in the NCR. They've had some struggles as a program to build back up, but it seems like they're on the right track here. And I think that, great things are on the horizon for them.
Can I pick a University of Buffalo guy here in this division as well, despite the fact that they weren't in it?
I don't think we can allow that, Colby.
I don't think that would make any sense.
It doesn't hurt to ask. All right, Colby, how about you?
Yeah, Milan Van Wyck from New Mexico Tech stands out to me. The fly half, we talked about him a ton. Additionally, Killian Burns from Wayne State. What a great name for a wing, in my opinion. Killian Burns. I just wanted to point that out.
Ice in his veins. He had that kick into the wind to seal it for the Pacific Coast Grizzlies in that one matchup. That's
right.
Wild.
Crazy kick in that unbelievable win down in Houston. I'm going to go with one of those lunch pail guys, a front row guy, Trevor Olickney out of the Oregon Institute of Technology. Oregon Institute of Technology, I'm just going to keep saying it over and over again. Oregon instituted technology, and he was technical and good in that front row. Way to go, Trevor. Colby, final thoughts.
Yeah, honestly, curious to see what New York does at the scrum half position moving forward. We kind of have seen Andy Ellis come on late in games for them recently. And so I'm wondering if maybe Marty Ville will ever consider starting Andy Ellis, putting his best foot forward in the beginning of games and bringing on the likes of a Connor Buckley or McManus, who, has the younger legs, the fresher legs to close
Zach,
games.
Am I losing my mind here? Or is he asking for Buckley to have 80 minutes, and now he's saying that he wants Ellis to start?
If it were up to me, Connor would play the whole game. Connor Buckley would play the entire 80 minutes because I think he's the best scrum half on the team. But obviously not everybody thinks that way. So I'm just throwing another suggestion out there.
All right. Okay. All right.
If it was up to Colby, Connor Buckley would be getting starting minutes for the All Blacks at this point. He would have as many caps as Andy Ellis did for New Zealand, probably.
Yeah.
Am I crazy for thinking he's the best scrum half on the squad? I don't know.
If you weren't an Iona Gael, would you be saying this?
He passes the eye test. He passes the eye test.
Oh, the eye test, ladies and gentlemen, the Iona eye test.
He does everything. What can't he do? He's a better box kicker than McManus.
He can't play the piano.
He's got more pace than Ellis.
He cannot play the piano, and he can't dunk a basketball. I know that for a fact. Two things. Okay, you're up now, Zach. Give us some reason, please.
Not too much for me. Just an excitement on my side from I was looking into when the WPL season, the Women's Premier League season, kicks off. That is coming in early April, so keep an eye out for that. You're seeing some of those teams playing, I guess you could say, quote unquote, preseason matches against some of the better college sides. As I mentioned last week, like the Harlequins in Atlanta playing Life, but their official season is going to be starting early April. And that is kind of the pathway where you're going to see a lot of the players who are standing out at the college level on the women's side of the game continue their, professional rugby development. So looking forward to that season kicking off.
All right, my final thought is I want the powers that be in college rugby to get back into a room and huddle and fix the sea of acronyms that we have and the sea of tournaments and the different national championships that we have. We have, again, now fans are faced with choosing or maybe not going to one or the other, but we have 2 sevens championships coming up in the next couple of months, and we should have one. And I wish they would get back into a room and not come out of it again until they have everything solidified. So it makes it easier on fans to follow college rugby, and it gives the college rugby players a bigger thing to play for instead of having these splintered groups. On that note, I want to thank Josh Rescio, Mr. Zach Lanning, and Mr. Colby Marshall. I'm Matt McCarthy. Thank you for tuning in. And please check out our other segments, including our Major League Rugby Highlights and Opinion show with Dan Power and Brian Ray, and a mystery guest this week. And check out TRO, The Rugby Odds, with John Bradshaw, Layfield, Gift Bailu, and Nate Osborne. And please sign up for our weekly newsletter. And please, please, please join our Rugby Wrap-Up American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.